Caller, we have you live. Who is this?
Hi, this is Carlo Cordon, coach at Applewood Swim Club. How are you?
Carlo, how you doing? I was expecting you tomorrow, but we'll have you today. Absolutely.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You are good.
Yeah, just trying to keep everything in check. Ready for our big meet.
Well, Carlo, what we wanted to talk to you so much about is this Saturday meet that YSN will be streaming at 9 a.m. Talk a little bit about it, what goes into it, what's at stake, and some of the things that fans should be excited for come Saturday morning.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is a great summer league program. There's a total of 8 teams in the Tri-County area. It's called the Youngstown Swim League, and it's been going on since about the late 1960s. And, there's going to be about a total of 500, anywhere between 500 to 600 swimmers, ages 5 to 18, that are competing for their teams. And, what they can get is the team that wins a flag. There's a first place flag, second, third place based on the total team points. But then individually, there's also like individual places, just like the Olympic Games. So if they come in first place, you get a trophy, second place, third place, and then all the way down to 12 places. But it's a great event. It's been going on every summer except for last year. That was the first gap year, like everything else. It just kind of shut down. So it's great to get it back up and running again.
How many events are going to be held on Saturday, specific swim events?
Okay, there's a total of 60 events. So it starts off with the medley relays, and it starts off with the 8 and under age group, and then 9 and 10s, and it goes all the way up to the 15, 18s. And then starts with the individual events right after that. So for each age group, there's freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, butterfly. And then the meet concludes with the freestyle relays at the very end.
And I imagine with all of that, your last couple of days, not just the meet that happened yesterday, and then obviously Saturday, and now getting ready for it in the next 2 days, you got to have like a frantic lifestyle in the next 2 days, getting ready for this. What's life like for you the next 2 days?
Well, the running joke with my wife is she gets the dining room table back right after Saturday's meet. So it's been busy. It takes a lot of planning just to run a dual meet, yet alone doing a championship meet like this, where we have to worry about parking and concessions and bringing in some vendors. We bring in tents, chairs, all that. So luckily, I have very good people around me at my club. We came together about 6 weeks ago. It was kind of all of a sudden. Basically what happened was one of the clubs that was supposed to host it just could not get enough people to get it together. So we ended up taking it on in a short amount of time. And usually the planning takes about 6 months, but we're going to pull this off with about 6 weeks of work. And again, it's just the people around me make it happen.
Definitely congratulations to that. I mean, when you had that opportunity to grab it, how exciting was that for you and your team to just be like, this is going to be ours now. It's going to be a lot of work. But hopefully Saturday is going to be worth the 6 weeks of grind that we've put into it.
Oh, absolutely. We're excited. And the kids are excited to have it at their home club. It's one of those things where it's a 7-year rotation. So, once we host it, it pretty much goes back, it follows the schedule. And so every year, every club has the opportunity to host it. But what happened was a couple of clubs decided to pass on it. So we jumped on it. And, I look at it as it's an opportunity for like my swimmers to swim in their home pool. You get to see it all decorated. You get to see it all pumped up. The community comes together. And, these summer meets are a lot of fun. They're wild. It's chaotic, but the kids have a great time. Parents tend to love it too, just because of the memories of being around their friends and, watching their kids having a good time. So it is definitely a community thing. And when it comes to swimming in general, although we're competing against another 7 teams out there, all the kids are pretty much friends with each other. It's a great sport, especially during an Olympic year like this, and it just happens to be going on the same week that Olympic swimming is going on. So there's a lot of excitement just in general.
I know with so many events, it's probably hard to kind of single out a handful of kids, but who are some of like the highlight swimmers that if people are going or if people are tuning in on YSN, like this is a name that when he's called, you better watch his heat because there's something special about him or her. So who maybe a handful of swimmers that that really should be kept an eye on Saturday?
Yeah, sure. There's quite a few. It's believe it or not, it's right in the middle, smack dab in the middle of the age groups. But one of the greatest races I think that's going to happen on Saturday, aside from the Olympic Games, of course, would be the 11 and 12 girls butterfly between three girls. And the one girl's from Logan Swim Club. Her name is Alexandria Taylor. And then I have two girls from Applewood that are right next to her. One is Morgan Brammer, and the other one is Ella Miller. And all three of these girls are basically below the pool record time already. So that it's going to be the 11 and 12 butterfly. So that should be a really, really good race. There's a boy from Poland Swim Club. His name is Connor Macbeth. He's going to be a D1 recruit to West Virginia. And he's swimming the 100 freestyle, and he's also doing the 50 fly, and he should be fun to watch too. And then there's the 13, 14 girls pack too. So when it comes to the girl swimmers, it's usually a bigger event when it comes to girl swimmers. But the 13, 14 girls is also pretty deep with a girl I have named Gina DiNapoli. Boardman Swim Club has a young girl named Karali. She's a backstroker. Another girl named Allie Murray over at Boardman Swim Club. Some very, very good talented swimmers that are, out there. And that, I'm just going off the top of my head. There's quite a few guys out there too. There's a Zach Mihawk that's an 11-12 boy. He came to our meet last Wednesday and broke two pool records, and one of them was by almost a second and a half. And, the kid's record he took down was Connor O'Halloran, who is a state qualifier in Eastern Michigan swimmer, by the time he graduated high school. So there's some good talent coming up.
I'm sure in these Olympic years, every 4 years and 3 for this one, it is very exciting for a swim coach in local areas, because this is the one time a year where your sport gets on the national stage and gets to highlight primetime NBC coverage. What's it like to kind of be in this moment where your sport is on the biggest stage and people get to kind of see all the little things that go into what makes swimming so great?
I think, for a coach, for all the swim coaches out there, this is what you hope for. There's a lot of TV time, and a lot of our kids and athletes are watching. Number one, they're watching some of these kids that they've heard about that are now swimming in the Olympics. But number two, just the amount of footage it gets. The underwater video, the above water video, where you're watching these swimmers do exactly what you talk about, but now these kids can actually see what it looks like. That to me is priceless. So, every day after practice, we talk about what we've watched on TV. For instance, there was a boy, his name was Drew Kibler, and he was the second leg of the 800 freestyle relay. The American men came in 5th place, but when Drew was an 11 and 12-year-old, he actually practiced at Applewood for a week. His family lives in Boardman. And so he was visiting his cousins, and he jumped in the water and he swam with us for a week. And I tell my swimmers today, I'm like, hey, you have an Olympian that was actually at this pool swimming practice with you guys, years ago. So they make that connection, and they realize that, they too could potentially set goals pretty high, and make it to a certain level that they feel they could reach with the amount of work they put in. So for coaches, it's great because there's so many lessons that we talk about and little skills that we want them to do that they can now see on TV, and it's on all the time. And it just highlights, basically a secondary sport. It brings it right into your dining room.
One of the biggest moments so far for U.S. swimming was last night when Caleb Dressel won the gold for I believe it was a 200-meter butterfly. Did you get to watch it? And if you did, I want the opportunity. Can you give us like a coach's breakdown on what made that heat so special and the Olympic record that he set and some of the things that he does?
Yeah, Caleb Dressel, he's been up and coming for many years now. I'd say the last 4 or 5 years. So, he was like one of the first guys in the sprint freestyle short course yards to pop out a 17-second 50-yard freestyle, which is unheard of, basically on a relay split. His vertical leap, he's definitely an athletic guy. His vertical leap is 44 inches off the ground, which rivals basketball players. So he's explosive off the start. And that's the one thing that they'll commentate on is when he gets off that block, he is like a torpedo, and he's already ahead of the pack. And, the amount of work that he puts in, with Caleb Dressel, one of his main weapons is what he does underwater. And, we try to teach that with our younger kids, like, hey, watch this guy and what he does underwater, because he's accelerating every time he kicks underwater, and he's not up on top swimming right away. And that is one of his most important skills, is that his underwater kickouts and his explosiveness off the blocks and on the walls. The rest is everyone else is trying to catch up to him. So, last year when everything got canceled and, everybody was like, well, what's Caleb Dressel going to do? Well, he was just going to train another year just so he can get to this moment again. And, that to me is kind of cool to watch, is that he kept his training up. He pushed through for another year. And he's talented enough that he could do it again in 3 years in France, but he is an amazing athlete to watch.
Last season was our first year covering broadcasting swimming. And, man, were we pleasantly surprised on the swim community and how much they flocked to those broadcasts. Talk about the swim community in the area and how big it is and how really proud it is of all the swimmers that we do have in the area. I mean, we were, like I said, we were so pleasantly surprised with the viewership numbers that we got when we did our first swim meet, that we went and did a handful more, just because they went and proved that they were there and they were very excited about the swim in the area.
Yeah, the swim community is amazing, especially since it's a group of people that all know each other. But, there are rivals out there. Like, for instance, my high school team at Boardman, there's nothing like a Boardman canceled meet. And, we are very good friends. Our swimmers are all friends with each other. They train together with their club teams. They've seen each other for, 10 years in the pool, racing each other. But when it comes to those bigger meets, like, for instance, you get to districts, you get to states, we all support each other. Like, I couldn't wait to see what the Austintown boys could do at the district level. They had a chance of getting the state, or, let's say the Canfield boys, they're D2, those guys get the state. You want to see them do well, because it just makes all of us look good, makes us all proud. We've got a very good relationship with the club coaches in the area. Penguin Swimming produces some great swimmers. There's the YMCA, the Neptunes has like a great group of, swimmers. So, although we compete against each other, the parents, the families, the kids, we're also there for each other too. So when YSN came about and we were able to stream these meets, oh my goodness, we could not get enough compliments from the families and actually even the other teams outside the area about, first of all, how great YSN was, not just for the COVID year, but also just for relatives that are out of the country or out of the state. Our whole goal was to go international, because everybody's got relatives somewhere. But the feedback was fantastic. And the kids themselves, knowing that their grandparents were watching a swim meet and watching them swim, was fantastic. So this opportunity came about when we were going to host this summer meet. And I said, why not do this again? These summer meets are a little longer than the high school meets. Let's do this on YSN again, and let's try to promote, first of all, swimming, but the league, some of these young kids that are coming up, they're going to be, on TV. And, let's open it up for their relatives that are out of town.
If someone out there is listening to this interview and they have a youngster that they want to kind of get involved in swimming, what are some of the steps that they should take to get their kid involved and to get them kind of into the sport?
First of all, there's so many great clubs out there, depending on what community they live in. For instance, I always feel like, I got my start at the summer swim clubs, and that's why I find it, to me, it's still rewarding. So, I coach at the high school level, but I also the age group level. But the summer clubs just have that sense of family, and that's where most of these top-end swimmers got their start. The love of the sport starts with the fun that they have at these summer meets, where they're just swimming maybe 25 yards or 50 yards. And then usually their coaches kind of tend to push them into like a winter program. For instance, Penguin Swimming or the YMCA downtown in Youngstown. And that's where they start to develop more training technique. Instead of just 8 weeks a year, it becomes more like 11 months a year. But again, it's all progressive. And then as they start to get closer to the high school years, that's where we step in as high school coaches. We try to, grab the kids that we want to continue that aren't doing other sports. The great thing about swimming is, everybody competes, and it's not necessarily about how fast you are or what place you come in. It's about improvement. So one of the greatest lessons, I think, for any young age group kid or someone just getting into the sport is, what's your time? Next time you go in, did you improve it? Are you working on your technique? Are you listening to, the skills that are being taught to you and how well you develop that way? So anyone that's getting into the sport, it's rewarding because it's about self-improvement, but also about family and, camaraderie and teammates.
Well, from a personal standpoint, it's great to put a voice to the name because I've heard so much about you from the Kelly family who loves what you do for them, and from the YSN family and what you've been able to do for swimming on YSN. And I just want to say from everyone here, thank you for putting it on. And Saturday at 9 a.m., you can tune into ysnlive.com for this championship swim meet.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
All right. Good to hear from Coach Cordon, and good to hear from the local swim community. I mean, here we go, Saturday at 9 a.m. again on ysnlive.com.